landscapes of Ladakh. To guide us through this fascinating session, I am delighted to invite two distinguished individuals, Ms. Ahtushi Deshpande, the author of the remarkable book Speaking Stones, Rock Art of Ladakh, and Ms. Pallavi Govil ji, who will be in conversation with her. Can we welcome them with a huge round of applause? Before we begin with the session, for the launch of the book, I would also like to call upon this stage we celebrate Speaking Stones, Rock Art of Ladakh, a work of art in itself. This isn't just any launch, it's your chance to be among the first ones to own the copy of this incredible work. And here's the cherry on top. You can get your copy signed by the author right here after the session. And now, without any further ado, we officially launch the book. It is a masterpiece that connects us with the soul of one of the Earth's most extraordinary regions, combining stunning imagery, detailed research, and the insights into prehistoric cultures that thrived in the harsh landscape of Ladakh. This book is a living testament to humanity's earliest expressions of creativity, spirituality, and resilience. Round of applause. Thank you so much. We are delighted to present two remarkable individuals who bring unmatched expertise and passion to today's discussion. Pallavi Govil ji, a dynamic leader and a scholar whose diverse background complements this exploration, an accomplished administrator currently serving as the Director General of Hydrocarbons and formerly Principal Secretary Tribal Affairs and Scheduled Caste Welfare, a scholar of governance with a PhD in Public Finance from City University, New York, and a Master's in Public Policy from Princeton University. An adventurer at heart, her passions for creating reading, traveling, and adventure sports mirror the spirit of discovery that today's session embodies. We are glad to have you with us, ma'am. Ahtushi Deshpande ji is a widely published travel journalist and one of India's top 80 photographers, an honor bestowed upon her by India Photo Archive Foundation in 2020. In addition, she has just concluded a 2-month exhibition in Paris on a special invitation from the city of Paris, further highlighting the global appeal of her work. What makes her achievements even more extraordinary is that she wrote and published this book while undergoing the treatment for stage 4 cancer. She is truly a warrior. She will now take us through the outback of Ladakh and its lesser known rock art galleries. Alongside her, she'll give this through a wonderful presentation. And later, together, these two visionaries will take us on a journey through the ancient and timeless art of Ladakh, exploring its stories, meanings, and the urgent need for its preservation. So, can we welcome them with a huge round of applause?
Hello?
Yeah, so can you hear me? It's not on? Alright. So, the mic is on now? No, it's not. Okay, so we'll just pass this in. We'll try this one more time. It's on now. Hello? Yes. So, thank you for this incredible talk on your book, Ahtushi. And congratulations for making it as a finalist to this world famous Banff Mountain Book Award. As a widely published photo traveler, photojournalist, avid mountain trekker. Tell me, what drew you to this subject initially? Like, what attracted you to devoting so much of your life to just the rock art of Ladakh?
Like I mentioned, I've always been a mountain person. We're always trekking in the wilderness. And as photographers, we're always looking for personal projects that, but you know, if it has to be a personal project, it also has to be something that really entices you and that really attracts you. And when I came across these imprints, I really didn't know anything about them, like most of the people don't know about them even today. And I think what fascinated me was this is such a harsh, high, cold, high altitude desert. Even today, it is so difficult to survive in. And that, you know, so many thousands of years ago, people had actually come here and left these fabulous imprints. And I've been, you know, connected with art from my school days as well, and form, design, and shape have always intrigued me. And they were made with such beauty and precision. You know, it's easy to make realistic figures, but abstraction in art requires a lot of creativity. And the surface is very unforgiving. You know, unlike pictographs, which are paintings, a lot of them found in MP, you can still do an error correction. But on rock, it's an ungiving surface. An error cannot be corrected. Your surface, your canvas is gone. And the fact that they were lying where these artists had made them all these several thousand years ago, I was standing in the very spot where they were created. It was just mind-blowing. You know, the river is flowing by and the sky is open. Most of them are in out-of-the-way places. That's why I call this book an armchair travel guide, because these are very difficult to access locations. And I think somewhere I'm fond of challenges. So something that had not been documented, I wanted to bring it to the mainstream. And I wanted to project the creativity of these ancient people. I also wanted to wrest it out of academia and, you know, bring it as art, the way it was projected, the way art is projected today. And
lovely, lovely. So you just mentioned in your talk as well about how you use some night photography techniques, and you mentioned about how many of these art forms are in very hard to reach places. So, and you've done some special techniques in photographing them which have not been used ever earlier. So can you talk a little bit more about that? And I remember that on your suggestion, I tried to trek to one of these sites in Ladakh. And believe me, the gravel, the path, it's so hard to reach even the lowest of these sites. And the most intrepid of us, you know, worries about losing your foot while getting on. So what are the challenges you encountered in photographing all of these and chronicling them?
you know, I think when sometimes passion drives you, the challenges just fizzle out, you know. The excitement is so much. And having been a mountain person, this was on my 5th visit to Ladakh, then I found them. So altitude has not been too much of an issue with me. I'm used to that kind of, you know, it's part and parcel of the adventure. But I think the challenge lay in the fact that these are so old and they are barely visible at times to the naked eye. And therefore, and photography cannot lie, you know. We see three-dimensionally, but photography is a two-dimensional medium. So for me as a photographer, the responsibility is to make my subject look good. And therefore, the challenge was, you know, how to bring them out. And for that, I used reflectors, I used a lot of night photography, because I wanted to isolate the art outside of the landscape. And also the patina of the rock, the surface of the rock. Let me come to quickly about what this canvas really is. So basically, you need contrast for art to be visible. And this process, this casing on the rock, which is called the patina or the desert varnish, is a process of iron magnesium leaching with bacterial decomposition that causes this. Now, this surface over time becomes so smooth that direct sunlight, which people often think is the brilliant light of Ladakh, you will get such great pictures, it's actually detrimental to photography.
Reflects back.
Yes, it reflects back, it's mirror-like. So therefore, using these photography techniques to actually isolate, bring out the three-dimensional part of the art and the grooves, that was the challenge. And of course, some of them are in out-of-the-way places, but that's part and parcel of it. I wanted to also document all of Ladakh, not just one isolated region. Therefore, it took a good 10 years and 18 visits. So those were challenges, and like any other normal human being, I faced my doubts, and there were inconsistent periods, but I persevered, and finally the book is here, so I'm happy for that.
On perseverance, you mentioned that you did not have any funding and it was a completely self-funded project. Now that can be daunting for most of us, and that's a huge challenge you've overcome along with your health issues along the way. So how did you manage that?
I didn't think too much. And I just hurtled along. I just went with the flow, and doors opened. I was very, very lucky. I think I consider myself very fortunate, irrespective of the health and all. There are these small blips in life. We make them too much bigger. But there are so many other good things happening. And we are all moving the same way. Cancer or no cancer. We are all going to meet the same end. And who is to say when that will be? COVID showed us that in, large parts. There's no predictability to life. So, go out there and, grab it and do whatever comes your way, and somehow the path keeps opening. I think that future projection, too much of thinking ahead, too much of planning, I've fortunately never done that too much, and the flow has helped me stay afloat.
You mentioned people, you mentioned Jigmet, you mentioned Umdo. So people are a very important part of your journey. People past, people living there, and people who've helped you do this chronicle. Do you want to talk a little bit about them?
Oh yes. See, every region is special for the people. And I think Ladakh, besides its landscape, it's got that Buddhist tenor. So hospitality is very inherent in the people of Ladakh. And I have actually knocked on strangers' doors and asked local villagers if they would give me a room for the night, because my petroglyph site was close to them and I would have to go 120 kilometers away, because there were no hotels, outside of Leh when I started my documentation, and there were no homestays. And I've had the most wonderful experiences with local villagers, opening their homes to me and helpful. And like I mentioned in my talk, I have never encountered any issues. And of course, Jigmet, my driver, who I picked up, he had a beat-up Qualis, and it's thankfully survived our trip. And that's how I just did it. Just me and him as my assistant.
Lovely. So people open up their hearts wherever you go.
Oh, absolutely.
And you also mentioned, and you showed a picture of the Kathotia trip where you saw some rock art in Madhya Pradesh. So just to bring a little bit of context of Madhya Pradesh over here, and with Bhimbedka, etc., are you planning to visit, or have you already visited some of the rock art sites in Madhya Pradesh, and how are they different from the rock art that you saw in Ladakh?
See, the biggest distinction is they are more of pictographs here. Pictographs are paintings on rock because there are more overhangs and caves in this region. Whereas Ladakh's open air geography doesn't allow for caverns. So therefore they are more open air, and in open air you can't have pictographs. So they are more petroglyphs. Petroglyphs are etchings, pecking or abrasions on rock. And yes, I've seen Bhimbedka and I've seen Kathotia, like I mentioned, and I hope to see more of rock art.
There was one in Tamia as well, which you went down and I refused to go.
Right, that's right. So it's beautiful, I mean, it's also so lovely that, as humanity today, we are so distinct by caste, creed, religion, so many things, and we tend to forget where we come from. And, our whole emotional gamut is the same. All of us, no matter what we look like, we will respond to emotional stimuli in the same way. And rock art shows this so beautifully, because all over the world, when there was no connection between people, there were no discoveries of continents, people were expressing in the same way the emotions. Hunting was widely shown because for man who had brain but no brawn, even a wild dog can bring you down. So it was a big victory to be able to hunt. Like in Kathotia, when I went, there were tiger pug marks even today. So imagine that forest teeming with wildlife, and there are humans trying to just survive. So.
Great, and you exhibited in Paris, and your book, the ambassador to Bhutan wrote to me saying that he's really enamored with the book, etc. So your book is being reviewed and seen outside in the country. So outside the country, tell me, what was your experience in Paris, and how was it received over there, and what are the plans for the book in the future?
So it was a great experience. The people were very, very interested in the subject. There was a lot of signing up from vast spectrum of society for the talks. And I even gave a talk to some archaeologists and anthropologists so that they can better their craft of photography. And, you know, because it always helps to have good visuals. And it's a culturally vibrant city. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. It just concluded. And there's possibility of another exhibition happening at the Maritime Museum in the Alps in the future as well.
very
And I'm hoping that India opens up more to this, you know. And I'm hoping to connect to the audience here.
Very good. So you also had a picture about how one of the etchings is very similar to what has been found in Utah. So that's actually quite intriguing that humans across the world who may not have had any connection would have been thinking similarly. So it's uncanny. So anything on that before we open up for questions, because we want to keep some time for questions.
So see, essentially, if you look at it, the sky is the same. At any one point of time, you will have the same sky wherever you are in the world. But how they connected the dots and decided to portray it as a symbol through which they could understand weather patterns. Because when humans were in that survival state, they were still figuring out how to live with this environment. When would the summer come? When would winter come? When to sow the crops, you know, when to get ready for the winter. They didn't have all the technology we have at our disposal today. So star watching has been an ancient, astronomy is a very, very ancient science. And this is how it likely started.
Lovely. So any questions from the audience? Please. We'll just have the lady in the front first. And then the gentleman over there. Just
मैं
after.
आपको बहुत कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट कर रही हूँ क्योंकि मैं भी पहाड़ से हूँ, दार्जिलिंग से हूँ, और जब जाती थी हिमालय के उधर तो पगडंडी देख के लगता था इधर से लोग आना जाना करते हैं, क्योंकि पहाड़ के लोग ऊपर रहते हैं जनरली, छोटे छोटे गलियों मतलब रास्ते से जाना आना करते हैं. तो लद्दाख में भी मैं गई थी और बहुत टाइम स्पेंड किया. तो आपके पास मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है. जब द्रास में रुक के हम लद्दाख के लिए गए थे, द्रास में रुकने के बाद टूवर्ड्स लेह लद्दाख एक जगह थे लामायुरू बोल के,
Sorry?
लामायुरू करके एक जगह है.
लामायुरू.
हाँ, उसको वो मूनलैंड कहते हैं. रात को रॉक्स जो है एकदम चांदनी रोशनी में छा जाते, तो उधर भी हम लोग देखे थे काफ़ी, मतलब स्टे करके, होम स्टे करके. तो आपका उसमें कुछ, आप क्या उधर गए थे क्या, कि उधर कोई पेंटिंग आपने देखा था क्या? ऐसा मेरे क्वेश्चन ये है. बाकी आपका जो बहुत ही सुंदर है ये.
आई थिंक शायद ही कोई जगह है जहाँ मैं लद्दाख में नहीं गई. ये रोड पे है, कारगिल हाईवे पे आता है. और ये लामायुरू के मूनलैंड फॉर्मेशंस काफ़ी ब्यूटीफुल और फेमस हैं. हाँ, बहुत सुंदर हैं. ये बेसिकली विंड इरोजन से हैं. जैसे सारा लैंडस्केप काफ़ी हज़ारों साल पे.
जो जाने के वक्त रोड साइड में जो ब्लैक स्टोन और वो सब दिखता है ना, ब्लैक शिलाजित पहाड़ जो बोलते हैं, ब्लैक स्टोन. तो आपने भी उधर जाके क्या कुछ आर्ट देखा क्या?
ये मूनलैंड तो देखा हुआ है मैंने. आई थिंक
आपने 6 वैलीज जो हैं लद्दाख की, उन 6 सब प्रत्येक वैली पे अलग अलग क्रॉनिकल करा है, जो इनकी किताब में. जी, जैसे आज नुब्रा वैली के ऊपर किया, तो इनकी पुस्तक में हर वैली के ऊपर अलग से उसको डॉक्यूमेंट करा हुआ है. तो आपकी इच्छा होगी तो आप ज़रूर अवश्य देख के जाइएगा. There's a question from the back from the gentleman. Thank you. जी.
So my question to you is, did you have any idea about where the rock art was located, on the basis of which you tracked where you were going initially? And of course, these 6 valleys that you've concentrated upon. The last one, Zanskar, are these all located along the river, or they're in an interior area as well? They're all visible from the water. Where exactly are they located?
so. Most of them are away, removed from habitation. They are not necessarily near, and I presume even if they were near habitation, they've got destroyed because so many layers of civilization have come on top. But most of them are near rivers, and you have to go scouting. Also, they have been documented by researchers. You see, this subject has been lying in academia for a long time. In 1902, A.H. Franke, he's known as the father of Ladakh archaeology, was the first to document and talk about sites in Ladakh. The Domkar Rock Art Sanctuary that I spoke of, he was the first to note those petroglyphs. And after that, there have been some French researchers, there have been local researchers. I've been very fortunate to have been in contact with all of them. And they have all helped me with locations. Archaeologists have helped me. And sometimes it was, of course, often because my trips were solo journeys. So it's like, there is a special rock somewhere, but still looking for it is like looking for a needle in the haystack. And, because it's such a vast region and it's just rocks and rocks everywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There's a question, Ji, pehle aap and then aap, please, in the front. Just in the front, there's a question. Can we have like 2 more minutes for questions?
Yeah. We can take one last question. Thank you.
ये वाली किताब मैंने पढ़ी पूरी और मुझे जो इसमें मैंने लद्दाख भी विज़िट किया. आई स्टेड देयर फॉर 4 days. तो मुझे वो जैसे आपने वर्ड इस्तेमाल की डिज़र्ट, वो डिज़र्ट जैसा ही लगता है, वो पेड़ तो है ही नहीं तो चीज़ों का. पर उसमें मुझे ये लगा कि क्या पहले से आपके चूँकि रॉक आर्ट्स है तो इसमें रॉक आर्ट्स में प्लांट कहीं उन्होंने उसमें डेपिक्ट की है नहीं, क्या पहले भी ऐसे ही डिज़र्ट था? क्योंकि मैंने वहाँ देखा बिल्डिंग्स जितनी भी हैं उन बिल्डिंग में वो ब्लैक कलर का एक वो लकड़ियाँ जलाकर उसमें से वो स्टाइल का बनाते हैं कोल का, तो वो डिज़ाइन जैसा दिखता है, कैसा लगता है जैसे आपने सीसी गिट्टियाँ जो होती हैं वो लगा दी हों उसमें से. तो क्या ये रॉक आर्ट से आपको ये लगता है कि पहले वहाँ इस तरीके का प्लांटेशन होगा या लोगों ने हैबिटेशन ने ख़त्म कर दिया उसको?
ये हमेशा से एक डेजर्ट रहा है. तो जो हिमालयन रेंज है वो एक रेन शैडो की तरह एक्ट करता है. तो हिमालय से टक्कर लेके जो दो क्लाउड्स हैं वो सारे नॉर्थ इंडिया में आ जाते हैं, तो वो एक बैरियर बन जाता है. और लद्दाख को इसलिए ट्रांस हिमालय बोलते हैं, मतलब हिमालय के पार. तो उस तरफ इसलिए बारिश नहीं आती, तिब्बत की तरफ बारिश नहीं आती. तो जबकि पहाड़ी इलाका है पर ये ड्राई डेजर्ट रहा है, तो यहाँ पे बहुत कम वेजिटेशन, बल्कि अब लोगों ने वेजिटेशन शुरू कर रखी है काफ़ी, पर हमेशा से इट्स नॉट कंड्यूसिव.
Quickly have one last question. The lady had raised her hand, and then we wrap up. Yeah. Oh, sir. Okay.
Yeah, someone new. Let's give it to somebody new. Yeah.
My question to you is that I've been looking at. Thank you. So now that we see that these rocks have, now when I look at these rocks, there are people who will make some writings, some names. There'll be hearts around, and maybe 10,000 years later, people will look for that, because later on, after language was invented, people have started to write this. There's a different way of communication now, right? So I want to understand is there a way to understand how long ago maybe these inscriptions were created, or like when you were exploring, could you define what time period or what was the era when they would have been created?
So what we know is through only stylistic analysis, which is by comparing the art from the regions beyond Ladakh's borders, where more extensive research has been conducted. No excavations or dating methods have been used in Ladakh. So there's no direct dating. Also, direct dating methods are not very scientifically viable. They are not very accurate, so they are not acceptable. But stylistic analysis has shown that these petroglyphs are up to 5,000 years old. They may be older, they're also invisible. What we do know is human beings have lived and passed through some very high passes, like I showed Sasirla and all, in ages past, even up to 10,000 years ago. So people have, moved. There have been migrations, there have been travels. And as far as petroglyphs are concerned, the very first pictorial art is considered hand and footprints, So those are also seen in Ladakh. I have some pictures which are very faded, very difficult to see, because you see this patination also. What happens is this cyclical process begins of iron magnesium leaching, which I had mentioned earlier. It starts all over again over a few thousand years. And the art begins to disappear back into the surface where it was etched into.
Yes. Another add-on, sorry. But is there a way to preserve? Because, this is the only proof that humans have existed before. So is there a way to preserve these engravings? Because I think it's important to know.
I think keep humanity away from them.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, lots of questions, but I think we have run out of the time given to us. Sir.
She's kind of asked what I wanted to ask. I'm Raghav Chandra. What is the key dissimilarity between what there is in India in terms of, pictographs or petroglyphs and what there is in Altamira and Turkey and other places, perhaps some part of Siberia as well? What is the essential difference? And does it tell us something about the evolution of mankind and where we came from, Homo sapiens versus the other Neanderthals and such like? I mean, has any research been done on this?
So we are still at the tip of looking into in depth into these things, and we have to contend that we may never even have all the answers, because it is so old. We cannot possibly get into the mind of the creators and to really understand what motivated them to create this art. But what we can see is that all over the world, the similarity is that it's the fauna that they have represented, whether it's bisons in another part of the world, or giraffes, or whatever else. And over here, the fauna that existed here, in fact, sometime back in Maharashtra, they found aquatic rhinoceros, which was never thought of to be part of the landscape there. And they dated it to 12,000 years ago, because that's possibly a time where the aquatic rhinoceros might have existed over there. So they gave us some leads as to time periods when, animals have gone extinct. So they are in parts of the world, you see certain animals depicted which no longer exist. And I think that most importantly, it shows how humanity revered nature and put it on top. Today we are going through so much climate change, and I think we are so disconnected from where we came from, and there is so much wisdom to be garnered and learned from these ancient people who revered and lived with the land and took only what they needed. And the animals which provided them food and which provided them insights into their own way of living were idolized. And there are hardly any humans, Today our gods are us. So here they were, the larger-than-life figures were those of animals. So,
thank you so much. I'm sorry, I'm getting stares, but it's been a fascinating presentation and fascinating talk. Thank you so much, Ahtushi. We have a lot of questions which we couldn't answer, but she will be there at the author lounge in case you wish to pick up a book over here. She'll be there to sign the book. And if you have any questions, please join us after this session as well. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you so much. It was truly a very, very interesting conversation. We could just keep listening to you. And for the people like me over here who have not been to Ladakh, you actually induced a big major FOMO in us, and we do want to go to Ladakh now. So ladies and gentlemen, today we have traveled through time and space, delving into the beauty of Ladakh's rock art. Ahtushi Deshpande ji, your ability to capture and narrate the essence of these ancient inscriptions have left us in awe. Your dedication to documenting and sharing these cultural treasures has inspired us to view this in a new way. And thank you so much, Pallavi ma'am, as well, for your insightful questions. And now for the audience, please pay attention. Our speaker will ask a question to you, and if you know the answer, please raise your hand and then answer, and you'll receive The Living an Enriched Life by Dale Carnegie. It's an amazing, life-changing book. So if you know the answer, please raise your hand.
So I'm going to ask you, what do you think has helped preserve the petroglyphs of Ladakh? Something to do with its environment. You have to give me a precise answer. Sorry?
Cold and dry temperature.
Okay, we don't have an answer to that one. It's actually the lack of moisture. But that's not... Okay, then we'll give it to him. Okay, that's close enough. Okay.
Thank you so much. We got so much about you from her. She's in love with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to our wonderful speakers again. I was listening to ma'am before the session also. She was so passionate about this subject, and that passion has transferred within all of us, I feel, right now. She's been to Ladakh over 18 times, if I'm not wrong, which is amazing, and we also want to go now. So as we conclude this deeply enriching session, I would like to request Dr. Meera Das ji to please present our esteemed speakers with a memento as a token of our gratitude. The picture that you see here is by Padma Shri Bhil artist Bhuri Baiji. She has made this artwork for BLF 2025, depicting the connection between nature, earth, and the human being and the environment, and the circularity inherent and imperative to all of our existence. Thank you so much, and thank you all for being a part of this wonderful session. We'll see you in the next session.